All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Melvin Brown. I'm the host of Spirituality Night Live. And today I have a special guest named Terri Craven. This is my Terri Craven. She's my friend from a long time ago. And I'm just glad to have her. Normally, well, we tried this before when you were in Arizona.
Right.
What happened? Was it the bad weather? Yes, it was the bad weather.
Don't blame it on me.
But see, then she decided to just fly in and be here right now. So, hey, it's actually better that it happened because now you're here live.
That's right.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you.
So I know that you're here because of your workshop, and I wanted to talk about that and promote that for you when we tried the attempted the live show last time. But so can you tell me how it went?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, it was very successful. Probably one of the better ones. Mainly because I went completely by my intuition. Of course, I always have the psychology background in my mind. It's already there. But this time, I didn't do as much preparation, and therefore I was able to feed off the participants, which was great because they took me exactly where the workshop needed to go. So people were able to get in a lot deeper. And get a lot out of it. They were exhausted, just like I was, but it worked. It was beautiful.
That's great. For you all who do not know Terri, let me read you a little bit about her background. Terri Cravens is an internationally renowned therapist, spiritual leader, hypnotherapist, and life guide. With 20 years of experience, she brings a unique perspective to guiding you on the path of creating your most authentic life. She studied in Rosebridge Graduate School of Integrative Psychology in California, and she started it in 1986. Terri combines intuitive work with the focus of teaching self-dialogue and the integration of inner child into the wholly developed self. The path of the successful life is rooted in recognizing the balance between spirit and practical living. Terri is a rare gem, a deeply wise, spiritual, advanced teacher with a zest for common sense. And I would have to agree with that because I first met you, I think it was 11 years ago, because last year I was like, it's been like 10 years because that's when I saw you. But I met Terri because someone told me that I needed to speak to someone who knew a little bit more about things than I knew because I was on a spiritual path. And I knew myself that I needed to speak with people who were smarter, wiser, and beyond the collective thinking of a person in Spotsylvania County. So I met you, and I walked in the door, and we said some fantastic, wonderful things. And she was everything that people promised. No, she wasn't psychic, but you kind of reminded me of, you've watched The Matrix? Have you seen The Matrix?
Oh, yes.
So you were like the oracle in The Matrix to me when you spoke,
That's cool.
So that's who Terri is, and I have a lot of friends who, the minute that they know you're in the town, they want to know and more about you and do one-on-ones with you. And do you have more of those scheduled, your one-on-one sessions?
Not now. I had the 2 days of one-on-ones just before the workshop.
Okay.
So now that's over because tomorrow morning I fly out back to Tucson.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for being here with me today.
Absolutely. I'll be back.
All right. That's great. So tell me, what was going on in Arizona? What were you doing out there? You just living in beautiful weather or what?
Oh, yeah.
But wasn't the weather like crazy the last time we talked? Storms or something or another?
Yeah. Well, right now that is the season for the monsoons. And of course, the monsoons are absolutely beautiful because you have the electrical storms, you have the thunder, the lightning, the wind, the rain. I absolutely love it. But it cools everything down because the heat is still there. It's probably in the hundreds right now. And of course, Phoenix, I think, is running like 118.
Mm-hmm.
So when those monsoons come in, it kind of cools everything down. And the breeze comes in, and then it only lasts a couple hours.
Okay.
And it's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Terry, describe to me, what is it that you do? Can you put it in your own words? Can you simplify all of that I said?
Well, I don't know if I can simplify it, but I'll try.
All right, all
Okay. Because of my psychology background, of course, that's probably the base. But what happens is, because I'm extremely intuitive, I incorporate the two. So that when I'm working with a client, what happens is I can feel where they're coming from, because my intuition is about feelings. It's not about the psychic realm as much. Once in a while, it'll come knocking on the door and then I'll share it, but I don't reach for it, because I'm more about what's going on with you emotionally and spiritually. And so my work is to get you to ground and to be able to take in, for you to be able to take in your spiritual teachings, your spiritual beliefs, and put them to work in the everyday world. Because so many of us, when we're on that spiritual path, we hear it, we read it, it makes sense, but then when we try to live it, it's an entirely different world. So I help my clients develop the skills to be able to implement them.
Okay.
In the workplace, relationship, family, whatever.
All right. So this one might be a hard one to answer too, but what do you see going on in the world today? What do you see that's happening?
Oh my gosh, there's so much, right? There is so much. Okay, what I'm doing right now is I'm feeling it. So, well, one of the things that it's doing is it's really forcing us to take a look at our inability to communicate at a level where we are all open to hearing and listening, because we do not do that well. And that causes a lot of misunderstanding, hurt feelings, and anger. And so we have to be able to pull back and look at ourselves, because that's where it starts. We have to be able to look at what it is that's triggering us, why it's difficult for us to listen to the other person, and why we are feeling insecure with that other person, because that is what comes up, and we have a hard time recognizing that. So that causes a lot of misunderstanding. The other thing is with this Black Lives Matter, that is so important, and how we look at it is important. I've heard so many times, and this is a heated subject for me. I've heard so many times that, well, you know, I wasn't a part of that as a white community. I wasn't a part of that. That's not how I feel. It's all lives. It's not just Black lives. That's all true. But something came to me today before I came here, and how I saw it was, it's as if being in a hospital room, like a dormitory, where you have a lot of patients who are all ill. We're all ill. We all have issues. We all have wounds that we're trying to heal. The doctors and the nurses are trying to heal all of us. And there in that dormitory is one individual who is bleeding. And the doctors are trying to focus on that individual without taking the focus away from the other patients. The other patients are hurting. They have their own issues, and they're yelling out, "What about me?" However, the one that is really in emergency is the one that's bleeding. And so the work is to be able to focus on the one that's bleeding and still keep the others in their healing place.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
this is not easy to find that balance. But for me, when I look at that, that's an analogy that speaks to me. It makes sense to me. Because that's what we're doing. We're all trying to heal. But right now, the focus is on that one specific patient. And that's where we're trying to heal. You go back to that one patient and you take a look at your own needs for healing. They have the same need. So we also have to bring it home to ourselves and take a look at how we're feeling, what our needs are through the other person. Here's the other thing, is that we who are not considered a minority, the thought of being a minority is extremely uncomfortable. We don't want to go there. Of course not. So a lot of the fear comes up that if a strong society, if a strong culture comes up, and this might bring up some controversy, so what? Talk about it. But if it shows up and it starts standing up, then wait a minute. Am I going to be the minority? I don't like that.
You know, that's interesting because I thought about that. My eyes see the people that are may not be on the bandwagon, so to speak, to understand what's being said here. Right. I see them as the minority in the whole thing. So what you're saying is it's uncomfortable for them to be in that category of being a minority right now?
Absolutely. It's frightening because we see your pain, the minorities, right? We see it. We don't want to go there. Of course not. But the work is to be able to understand what our brothers and sisters are going through.
Okay.
Right? If it's uncomfortable for me to think of being a minority, then step back, take a breath, and let yourself feel what that must feel like. Because that's the only way that we are going to accomplish compassion and understanding for our brothers and sisters.
Okay. So another thing that you said, you made the comparison to being sick and
Yes.
going to a hospital. But from my perspective, I see many people that don't think that they are sick and that they need some type of healing. And I see even less people taking steps towards healing or doing what I call the greatest work ever, the work inside. I think those of us who are doing the work inside, it can see it easily, right, and what's going on. And not that it takes a person to just do the work to understand it, but where I see people who aren't doing work at all are just, in my mind, they're just holding on to or trying to do everything that they can to hold on to their idea of what they think that it takes to be right, to do right in the world. And, you know, if that's even about being comfortable or it's just got to be done this way. And I just see so much passion about holding it that way. But yet, all of they just seem to me just to be professional people, professional as in, well, just the highest versions of just themselves and the limitation that they are, just like right here. Yeah. They haven't expanded. They're just doing everything to maintain this rat race on the inside here, right, without expanding. Yes. So I just thought it was interesting that you said sick, because I think you have to all of us could benefit from some type of help, treatment, period.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And it starts from being kind with yourself. Because you're right. It's like, what? A lot of times if we go to church, we don't want to hear we're sinners. A lot of people get triggered by that. But when you take a look at what really goes on inside of you as an individual, right? We all hurt. We all have pain. We all get triggered. That's part of our illness. You know, we want to be able to do better, to be happier. to be a better person in the world. And the way that we do that is going inward and working on ourselves.
What do you think the new reality is going to be outside of this storm that we're seeing right now? What do you see tomorrow? What is that going to look like for us?
Well, my initial reaction to that is whatever we want it to be. And the reason I say that, because it is a collective. We are our creators. Our attitude, our mentality, our actions, our choices is what creates the outcome. So we need to really take a look at that and actually sit down and figure out how are we going to come together to create, right? To create the outcome that's going to be healthy for all of us. How do you do that? Start with the family. Start with your church. Start with your spiritual groups.
Okay, so another thing that just popped in my mind is something that I think we tend to forget, especially when we're watching Facebook or news or however we get this other information out there. When it comes to us, we form something in our minds. And I think it's important that we make a step towards creating a vision of what it is that we want, because we've been inundated with things that we don't want. And then there's a lot of energy, in my opinion, there's a lot of energy that just comes from the inside to fight what it is that you don't want, but yet you don't know what it is that you do want. And I think that's something that we're missing. Even all the news, I don't see where we're talking about what it could be, what it should look like. We don't have anyone leading a vision of what could be.
Right, no solution.
No solution in mind. And we're just spinning around. It's just like we're just running like this in my mind. Right. And of course, then you have everybody trying to tell you their side of the story, but there isn't one. How do we maintain a higher, healthier vision?
Well, again, it has to start as a personal view, a personal experience, right? If I don't have a sense of how I view it, I'm going to have a hard time discussing what your view is. Mm-hmm. So I have to have a picture, a sense of an outcome, and then I have to be willing to compromise. I have to be willing to listen so that I am being educated. I don't want to be pushed. I don't want your idea to be thrown down my throat, as some people feel, right? I want to hear it, so I'm being taught. That's huge, because that is what blocks us, is how we deliver whatever it is that we're trying to compromise on, or whatever it is that we're trying to share. The delivery is so important.
So I found myself trying to be in a position where I'm gently offering another perspective and not expecting immediate change, because I used to be filled with this energy just to throw it all in and like, you got to see it now. And but I'm finding now it's just about, well, I've had a few stories of a few people tell me thank you because they've understood something, and I've noticed that it came from those that I didn't expect to even have any bit of a change, just little things. So I guess what I'm asking is, just like we want people to understand a little bit more, I guess people like me have to be a little bit more understanding too at the same time, while offering a new perspective for one to try on and see how it feels.
Absolutely. Now, I don't know if this fits in with what you're saying, all right? But my culture is different than yours, right? I consider you as a beautiful friend. I want to be able to communicate with you comfortably. I want to be able to stand up with you and for you for your rights. But there's also a feeling for me as being a white individual, and this may not fit everyone, but for me, there is an uncomfortableness of who am I as a white person to be able to speak for you and your culture. And I've talked to a number of individuals who feel that way. It's almost like a guilt, or it's like we want to stand up with you. We want to be there, but there's an uncomfortableness about it. And so I think there has to be a conversation around that as well. And again, that's for all cultures, right?
Right.
It's when people come together, even, and I just want to say this quickly, is that when people come together, like in marriages, and it's a different culture, one of the things I always stress, learn each other's culture first, please. Because that creates a lot of misunderstanding. So that conversation is important.
Yeah, I recognize that discomfort, and I think about it myself too, and sometimes I feel bad because, like, a white person has to be careful. They don't even know how to address me sometimes, whether I'm African American or Black, or you know, they just don't even know how, and how do they ask? I've also seen some friends on Facebook ask questions like, well, how come they can say the N-word and we can't say the N-word? So I mean, there's some real discomfort that's
a big one.
That's, you know, to understand. Part of me is like, yeah, because you don't get to. That's one thing that you can't do with your white self.
I love it. But I'd say, why not?
But I'm saying that to say I understand that, and it is uncomfortable. But at the same time, I've lived in that discomfort all my life, you know. And when you sit back a lot of times, not saying something and hearing people, I had lunch with a gentleman the other day and we're saying some things and I had to go, okay, I'm not going to go too much on this one. You know, this is a conversation I'm having with myself. I'm not going to correct him too much on this one. I'm going to let him know there's more to it than he understands, but I'm not going to take this as an opportunity to go full load on him, because he was there sitting trying to understand a little bit more. So I had to just drop a few seeds.
Yes.
But at the end of it, I was like, man, let me tell you what this dude said. This is what he said. Oh, can you believe that? I mean, that's like the real conversation. But the one that I'm having with him was like, that's great. And that's more to it than you understand.
That's right.
Oh my gosh. So.
Well, and that reminds me of a story.
And don't get me wrong, he was trying, okay? He was really trying. And if you're listening, I'm not making fun of you too much, but I am letting you know you do need to understand more than you think you know. Okay, just had to put
That's
that.
right. Well, it's like, you know, we don't, I think as the other culture, and because I'm not going to just say white, but it could be Asian, it could be whatever, right? But we want you to speak like us. We want you to fit into our culture, because then it makes us feel more comfortable. Then we can relate to you better, right? And that's not fair. But that is very much a part of society right now. And I would imagine that for you, that must be very difficult.
Well, it's been the way that it's always been, but now what's difficult for me is.
But that's not okay.
That's what's more difficult. What's difficult now is trying to represent as I should have been able to from the beginning, but with a slight handicap now, because you have to allow people to get used to it not being a particular way.
Right.
And that's why I say we're coming into a different era, in my opinion. I mean, the writing's on the wall if you pay attention to the things that I've seen and you go back to the old books. It's changing. It's going to change. It ain't going to look good when it changes. It's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. People going to be crying. People going to be complaining. And that's what I see happening now.
That's right.
So
none of us like change.
Right.
I don't care where we are, what we're going through. Change is always very difficult for us because change brings up the unknown. It brings up the fear. And it brings up the fact of, okay, who am I now in this new environment?
Right.
And we don't like being uncomfortable. But if we can embrace that and know that that's all a part of evolving, right? And it's all a part of getting to know one another, it makes it a bit easier. Doesn't take the pain away, no. But we're strong enough to do it. We can do it.
So I'm here now thinking about my 10-year-old, and I try my best to hold myself in a way to tell him what's going on and to hold myself in a way where it's going to be good, because I believe it's going to be fine and okay. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering what are kids seeing and what are they sensing right now? I know that's a hard question to answer because it depends on especially the age group of the kids and where they are, but these are the people that are going to make the future or coming into a different future now. What do you think? What do you think they see, and what's the best way to hold a light for them?
Okay. Well, there's so many changes, right? It's not just about the racial issues. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. First, I'd like to say this. I think the racial issue is just a way for us to learn how to make some of these changes that are needed at a soul level anyway. And the bottom line, if you can't get this right with the black and white, you're not going to be able to get it right with anything else.
Absolutely.
So I think that's it. And Anthony and I have called this thing, the racism part is just like the headlight.
Now, who's Anthony?
Anthony's a good friend of mine that I've had on a few times. Sorry about that. But he has said that all of this is just the headlight on a vehicle. There's something else. It's bigger than just this. This racial part, that folk is just the headlight, because it's about something a lot more than that.
Absolutely. So well put. Thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. Exactly. But then again, where do you start? With yourself, right? And so getting back to the children, I've noticed that the college students that I've talked with so far, a lot of them are in fear. They're in conflict with themselves. They're confused. However, they're also very smart and 10 steps ahead of us. So are they going to get it? Absolutely. And I think what we need to do is to be able to reinforce that strength by reminding them that they do have it. I mean, they came in at this time because they're ready for this. So it's for us to step out of that fear for them and step into the trust and faith that everything is in divine order. One of my favorite sayings, it is true.
Right.
They're here to help us through this, and they will. Will it take them a while to find those steps? Absolutely. Yeah. They'll trip, they'll fall, but they'll get back up. And we'll be surprised. We're going to have a big smile on our face.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So along the lines of children is something that I discovered in myself was the inner child. And I did that with some help with you, of course, from last year. And I can remember being a kid who was, I don't know, in different ways. I mean, traumatized and great. Traumatized is one way to explain it, but I've always thought that somebody was going to like come in and save me, as a kid. And it didn't. Who knew it would take me at 49 years old to come save myself, So how does the inner child work play in healing for people?
That's the main source, actually. People have a hard time understanding that But in fact, I was mentioning this a little bit in the workshop this weekend, and that the inner child, what it's really about is those wounds that were created at certain times in our lives. And so at times, you may feel like you're a 5-year-old, right? Or you may be in a business meeting and feel like you're dealing with a lot of 10-year-olds. Well, the truth is you are, because whatever's going on, it's hitting that part of your personality that remembers that time in your life. And so we automatically respond from that part of ourselves. Now, the reason we call it the inner child is because it makes it so much easier to identify with that pain, with that struggle, right? Once you do that, then you can work through it so much easier. And you can understand the other person, because you can see when they're coming from their child. Mm-hmm. And most of the time, that's who we're talking to.
Or in my case, something that I learned last year, defending a child in me was defending a child in me.
Yes.
And was not allowing the more authentic part of me to be fully expressed. And so when it comes to like, what should my authentic voice be? I had to spend some time getting in touch with my inner child, so to speak, so that I knew what he really wanted or what he really saw. And I was amazed that one part that I'm not going to repeat here, but he said, and it dropped me to say, wow, you wanted that? That's what I wanted. I didn't know. I had forgotten that I wanted that, but the inner child in me knew it. And so I can only imagine how the rest of my life I made choices so that I could compensate for the lack of that thing that inner child wanted so bad. And I thought as a person that my big self, I was asking for this one part, but the kid was asking for the other side of that. And that was something that was here. And I couldn't believe that it was asking for that part.
Right.
So authenticity is huge. Can you expand more about that? Why is that so important to be authentic?
Right. Because authenticity comes from the part of us that allows ourselves, one, to be vulnerable. All right. Vulnerability, right away, we feel like that's something that we need to protect and hide. But what it is that's our true self. That's our truth. That's what we're feeling. That's what we holds our desires. And that's the part that is important to develop and to strengthen, so that authenticity, that authentic part of yourself, which I call the balanced parent, can come in and raise the wounded child. Because what you do then is you create a dialogue between the two. So you have a mentor, right? Someone that to you, it's your inner guide, let's say, that comes from a more balanced place and a place of truth. Because most of the time that inner child is believing a lie, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. I'm dumb. I'm stupid, whatever it may be. And the authentic part of us, the adult-centered parent, that's when it's time to come in and do that inner dialogue and tell that child the truth. But I just want to say one more thing about that truth has to be truth, in that a lot of times our affirmations, let's say, are a little extreme. And so you think that inner child's going to believe, you think that my inner child's going to believe that, oh yeah, I can be a movie star someday? No, I don't think so. I wouldn't. Okay. But if that parent came in and said to me, Terri, come on, you can do this. You'll be fine. Then I might go, okay, but I need to take a little time. Right? So we have to speak truth.
Truth. A couple of things that I grabbed from on your website, which the notes on authenticity is beautiful, but I highlighted a couple of them because it seemed to be related to some of the stuff that I was walking into when with having conversations with people. One says, for someone to correct us, to bring out our mistakes, or be honest with how they feel, even if it is not what we want to hear, can be liberating if we don't get defensive. Defensiveness is like, I guess that's one word to wrap up everything I was saying before when you're trying to have a conversation with someone and offer them a different perspective, but that defensiveness that comes up. How do we get beyond that as a person being defensive or a person being triggered by one's defensiveness?
Okay. That's a beautiful question. It's so important because, yes, when I was speaking earlier about learning to listen, right? That's where that defensiveness comes in, that when we're having difficulty communicating, we are a lot of times defending our position rather than being open and just hearing it. Many times with my clients, what I will say, especially if they're working on relationships, part of the exercise, I will say, you listen to each other without being defensive. Keep your mind empty so what you're hearing can come in. You may not like it, you may not agree, but get rid of the defensive position, because when it comes in and you don't defend it and you don't judge it as good or bad, you simply listen, then your own higher perspective comes in and your own intuitiveness comes in. And then you begin to really understand. So defensiveness happens because we're feeling judged, right? We're feeling that you, for some reason, do not like my opinion. So then we take it even deeper a lot of times. And because you don't like my opinion, then you may not like me. Or maybe I'm wrong with feeling the way I do, but I'm going to protect it because that's what we want to do. So delivering the message is so important. We have to use the words that are not offensive. And you see this, especially in social media. How many times are we using offensive language? And then we wonder why others don't listen?
Okay, so imagine, so help me out here. I'm gonna say I'm gonna have a conversation with the person and be brave enough to try to offer them a little different perspective on what it is that they're saying. And I see defensiveness come up.
Mm-hmm.
How do I navigate through that to continue when I see their trigger, when I watch them? And I sense it, I feel it. I mean, yeah.
Okay. One of the things you can do is pull back and take a deep breath and reword it, because that's usually where it's coming from.
Okay.
The other thing is you can be honest and open and ask them, I feel like you're getting defensive, or I triggered you in some way. What is that about? Would you like to share that with me? Because you have to get an understanding for where each one of you are coming from. Part of the conversation is about understanding each other. We forget that when we're trying to communicate on a certain topic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So good. Another point that you made, she has several here, so you can go back and look at it. But but these are the ones I just wanted to talk about a little bit. It is a powerful thing to know that whatever transpires between you and another person is all about truth. To know that a message goes directly to you with full honesty is a gift. It is respect. That's something I hadn't really quite thought about in those terms. That it was truly a gift when you come down to it, with respect at its deep, honesty and respect at its deepest level. I liked it. So it had to be said. Okay, moving on.
What are you giggling at?
Because I added one in here, and I'm just wondering if I should say it or not.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. I'm sure they're open for it. They want to hear it now. No,
I've
you
just been
mentioned it.
spending some time processing. Before I say the word, I was talking with a friend, and we're just talking about how people can be and what's going on. And he goes, "Man, people are just assholes."
I saw that.
So I had thoughts about it. And then first I was like, yeah, well, but then I had to go, how about myself? Maybe that's why they bother me so much, because I've been the biggest one and can't nobody do it better than me, especially that wounded child bit.
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to be a strong asshole around 11 years old. I did.
Yeah.
I wrote, it was great. You weren't going to beat me in a battle.
You got it.
And now I just see a rise of them. How do we encourage people to go beyond that and that kind of response?
Okay. First of all, when you look at a person as an asshole, a jerk, right, whatever, we're judging them. And so our work, and it's not easy, it's not going to happen overnight, but our work is again, stay out of judgment. It's like, okay, they're coming from a certain place. It doesn't work for me. I'm not so sure it works for them, but let me hear what they're trying to say. When you come from that place, again, it's so much easier to hear what's behind the so-called asshole, right? Yeah. And then as you said, oh, that's me.
That's me.
That's me. Well, we're mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
I hold up a mirror for you and you hold up a mirror for me. And I see it as that's why God put us in physical form so we can see ourselves.
Mm.
And so throughout my years of growing and doing my inner work, and I've done a lot, one of the things that I found, especially in relationship, because that's when it gets really gnarly, right? All your issues are going to come up. When I would experience a certain behavior that I did not like, what I learned to do was take a look and go, whoa, pull back, Terry. What part of that is you? And then it's my responsibility to work on it myself. Mm-hmm. What they do with it is their responsibility. But when you start working on yourself, then everything else changes around you. And a lot of times, if the two of you have a future, whether it's a friendship, loveship, whatever it may be, you're going to work through it. And that person will then get triggered to doing their own work.
Okay, now that brings me to another thing that I've never really talked to, not to anyone who is with the wisdom that you have, but I have this thought. And it's alignment with this old saying that you hear when there are two people with opposing ideas and they come to the table, so to speak, to discuss it. And at the end of it, or right before it's the end, one person says, well, we're just going to have to agree to disagree, and then go on with it. And that has never settled with me. And I think it's because, but first, I understand that there is no one objective reality. Einstein said that best, with their whole, when they're trying to figure out what's life to its smallest forms, whether it's waves or particles. He and I think it was Niels Bohr, they were both arguing. One was like, it's waves. The other one was like, it's particles. And until some other smart dude said, hey, you guys switch your results and look at it. And then both of them had to agree with the other one and go, well, yeah, looking at it this way, it's blah, blah, blah. But then Einstein came up with this fantastic thing. There is no one objective reality. So it just pretty much means whatever truth you have is a truth and no one can take it away from you, because in this beautiful universe, you are equipped to be able to find what it is that you're looking for. What you are seeking is also seeking you. So you are going to see it the exact way that you want to see it and make it work for you. So I understand now that we all have truths. And when I hear that statement, to me, it feels dismissive. It feels like someone is saying, what I just said is not true at any level at all. And I think it would just be better if it was just acknowledged somehow or another. I'm not sure what's the best way, whether it's just, hey, I can see how that works for you. Because truly, I can see, and I've had conversations with people even here recently that want to tell me why they are in support of the Confederate flag. I can see more clearly why they think that. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that they couldn't expand beyond that, but right. Now they have given me eyes so that I can see it through their lens. So any thoughts on my little wild idea? Because I've never heard anybody say it like how I'm looking at it. Like, I'm not satisfied with agree to disagree. I think it's...
I know, but you just answered the question. You just gave a beautiful description of what's real, right? But what happens is that in that whole discussion, the ego gets in there. Everybody wants to be right. And when you are having a discussion with someone that wants to be right, that's trying to get you to believe what they believe, it won't work. And so I think a lot of times in our discussions, we need to pull back and pay attention to who we're talking with and know the limits. It's like know what you have and what you don't have, and don't waste that energy and that delicious information that you have with a person that's not going to take it in. Put that energy someplace else where they'll hear it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to answer, but that's just been spinning on my mind for the longest time.
That's a hard one.
It is a hard one.
That's a hard, because it pushes a lot of buttons.
It does, and even with mine, it's just like,
but that's the ego that gets in there and wants to be heard. Well, if you hear yourself, you're going to be okay.
Self-centered awareness. Okay. What do I have here? Self-centered awareness field is limited. That increases as you know. Okay. That's what I wanted to say. I'm reading my notes that are kind of like written completely here, because I've got self-centered awareness. Where am I going with that? But I wrote that increases. Okay, so your awareness, this is what I put. I think one's awareness increases as they go through pain and suffering and understand it at different levels. Because what I see with people sometimes is their awareness is more self-centered, about self-serving. If they're taking on something, they can only see it as far as it affects themselves and not a larger view of how it affects other people. So with that being said, what I'm noticing is there's a division in America right now that can be described as the head disconnecting from the body. And the head being the logical thought processing part, where a certain group of people are right in what would be the quote unquote right things to do, if it was just to cover this small awareness group here. but it doesn't cover all, which in my mind connects to the body, the pain, the suffering, because that is where the pain is, and the head doesn't know it or remember it. Are you tracking what I'm saying? Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you put that in better words for me?
Well, I don't know if I can put it in better words. I'll put it in my words.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It's now how I would describe it in my words is it's the intellect not connecting with the emotional body, right? And we will not get the full picture if we're not in touch with both. I've always said the emotions will get you in touch with what's going on, with what your truth is. If you go down deep enough, we have to sift through the lies, the old lies that we bought over the years, get down to the truth. The intellect will give us direction, but we're not going to get accurate direction if we're not in touch with the emotion. And I think that's where it gets lost.
That's what I'm seeing happen in the world today.
Exactly. But it's so important not to judge it, but to see it as the problem, because you can't find a solution if you don't see the problem. But if you get stuck on the problem as being the bad guy, right? Mm-hmm. Again, you will never get to the part of the solution. So we have to stop pointing fingers. Please.
All right. It's good stuff. And let's see. Before we get to soul questions, my time. I'm good. Yep. I'm good. Good. All right. Good. I'm going to go to my soul questions now. Do you have a word that centers you?
No.
All right. Next question.
Let me explain why. Can I explain why?
Next question. No. Yes, please.
Okay. I'm very direct and simple. So, yeah. No, I don't, because for me, it's breath. It's breathing. To find my center, I'll just simply close my eyes for a moment and breathe and go to my center that way. So if there was a word behind it, it would be breath or breathe.
Okay, so breathing is how you reset and get clear.
Yes. What
are you most grateful for?
Oh my goodness. So much. Wow. That's so interesting, because when you say that, I get emotional. It's like, whoa. I get emotional because wow. I'm such a deep lover. I mean, I love life. I love people. I love my work. And I think I'm probably then the most grateful for and thankful for is my work. I love it.
Great answer.
Yes, yummy.
What are the top 3 most influential people to you?
Okay. Of course, my own mentor and teacher, Dr. Ernest Pecci, who is no longer with us. But I always say he's the one that discovered me. He's the one that came to me after working with him and studying with him for years. Finally came to me and said, Terri, you've got the talent. Get out there. Because I started out very insecure, shy. I would not speak like this. No way. There's no way I wouldn't do it. Yeah. So Dr. Pecci for sure. And Maya Angelou. Ooh, I love that woman. So wise. Yeah. And I would say those 2. I'm not sure I have a third one.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Pecci, because it was I guess his words that they gave to you for you to give me those words for me to be here right now. So thank you, because I wasn't doing it without that. So that's why I'm here stepping out. Thank you. Any favorite quote or or scripture, anything like that for you?
I don't have a favorite quote other than my own.
Okay, bring it on.
Uh, everything is in divine order.
Okay.
Right action creates a right sense of self. That one is my favorite because that covers everything. When you're in right action, everything's going to fall into place. You know when you're not in right action. We all know when we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, we can pretend, but we know. What is something that people get wrong about you?
I don't think anything.
Oh,
Okay, but I want to explain that a little bit.
okay. All right.
Because the way I look at all of us is that whatever we present is who we are. And there's all aspects of self, right? So whatever someone sees in me, it's a part of me. It may not be the whole part of me because I'm about a lot more, okay? And different people, depending on my different groups, because I love to ride motorcycles, right? So my motorcycle friends see a total different part of me, right, than my spiritual friends or my family. So it's all different, but it's all me.
Okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, I already do.
Shit. You do have superpowers, for real. Yep, you do. I'll let other people come figure out what that is.
Yeah.
Y'all should book a session with her. She's fantastic. How about what brings you absolute joy?
Absolute joy? My work.
All right.
Oh my God. Like right now, I'm having a blast.
Okay.
I love it. Yeah, so thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. It was better having you here in person because I get to feel you. So
everything's in divine order.
It works, so it's perfect. Next week, I'm going to have Michael Caruso here. Michael Caruso is an astrologer who is he's special.
He's very special, by the way. Excuse me. He's been a friend of mine for years.
In a beautiful way. He's got the blueprint on the cosmos, and he can pick you up depending on when you were born and where and what time on the planet. And so I'm interested to see what he has to say about the state of the world and things.
You'll love it. He's very talented. And I might say, if I may put in a plug for this brilliant man, he's also very intuitive, even though he won't admit it. So he brings the whole spectrum in, he's bringing the whole picture. So yeah, a gift.
Well, thank you for that. So I have to remind folks that do what you can to do a spiritual journey, go deep within inside, and remember the wisest words given to us by the wisest man here that we know in the most recent years. He said, love God with your everything and love your neighbor as yourself. Upon those two, hang all the law, all the prophet. And namaste, people.
God bless.
Namaste.